and welcome. My name's Chris Cann with Harbour Insight, and with me I have Hayden, Locke, Chief Executive of Marimaca. Marimaca is focused on its namesake project in Chile, and this is part of a series of interviews we're doing with Hayden to get a bit more understanding of what's been going on at Marimaca and what's to come. Hi Hayden, welcome.
Thanks.
I wanted to get a full understanding in this discussion around the DFS at Marimaca. Things have changed, obviously, because there's been some corporate activity, but exploration success as well. And then you've got, at the base of it all, the project itself, which has been moving towards a development decision with that feasibility work. What's the latest since the acquisitions that were done? And talk us through those briefly, please, in terms of how it may have changed your considerations for that final DFS.
Yeah, we had a good look at, so we did some analysis on the Pampa Medina and Madrugador properties just before we acquired them to get an understanding of whether they could add value to our story and potentially grow, increase the scale of our production or extend our mine life. And the answer was that yes, they could. And so we took that into account when we did the final engineering design basis for the DFS to make sure that if we elect to expand at some point down the track, that it's a relatively easy and cost-effective expansion. So the things that we're thinking about are, well, starting from the coast, the water supply. Do we have a big enough pipeline to expand the water supply to be able to supply two projects, or would we need to retrofit? So we've over-designed the water supply pipeline. Then we've got the storage ponds, then we've got the acid storage, then we've got the power supply connection. Do we have enough power to run a slightly bigger SXEW plant? The footings for the SXEW plant, do we have enough space? Where would we put it? Do we need to change the orientation? So that's all been factored into the Definitive Feasibility Study, which would allow, once we do all of the technical work, which we haven't done yet on Pampa Medina, to relatively quickly and seamlessly bring that into an expanded project area. So that's all gone pretty well. It's caused a few delays. It's caused some deep thinking, but I think we're on top of what we're going to do for the DFS in order to allow a future expansion to occur.
Okay, so previously we've talked about those acquisitions and the fact that they could take Marimaca from what is essentially kind of at the bottom of that window of globally significant potential producer into something that's a bit more material, kind of in that 75,000 tonnes per annum range. Is the idea that you will include that Pampa Medina, the consolidated production opportunity, into the DFS, so it becomes that 75,000 to 80,000 tonnes per annum operation? Or is the idea that you design the 50,000 tonnes per annum operation in a way that can accommodate further production?
Yeah, so the actual project that we would be targeting to build would be a 50,000 tonne project. The benefit of SXEW is it's fairly modular in terms of your ability to expand. So it's not that difficult to expand the scale of the SXEW facility as long as you have enough space. So the other thing about Pampa Medina is it's, in terms of its development and the maturity of the project, it's probably 2 to 3 years behind Marimaca, just in terms of drilling and understanding and technical work and the confidence that we would need in order to start an operation there. So there's quite a bit of work to do before we would look to bring that into production. But in terms of the strategy with the DFS, because we're upgrading the resource at the moment for Pampa Medina, and hopefully we'll be able to do that for Madrugador as well. But it is most likely going to be dominantly inferred resource, which means it can't be part of a DFS. So in the 43-101, we'll have the Marimaca DFS, which will contemplate a 50,000 tonne a year copper cathode. But there is a element that allows us to be able to insert what we're going to call an integration PEA to wrap some technical and economic assumptions around the Pampa Medina development, to be able to show investors why we're so excited about that opportunity to either extend our mine life or increase our scale.
What's the team looking like these days? Because there's a lot of different things going on, and we'll talk about this separately, but the exploration piece is quite aggressive. Obviously, you've got that underlying development work that needs to be done for Marimaca, the core project. And then obviously, the consolidation assets as well being brought into that and the augmentations. Presumably you've doubled the size of your team to get all this done?
Yeah, the team is growing pretty aggressively. And it really started with the hire of Oscar Valenzuela and Alexis Munoz. So Oscar is our VP project, managing the engineering and all of the work that goes into delivering a well-defined and engineered project. And then working alongside him, Alexis Munoz, who is our project execution director. Both came from Capstone, both worked on the Monteverde construction, have recent experience building a large-scale mine in Chile. And then below them, we're building out all of the various members of our owners team and filling in the gaps as we go. It's probably one of the hardest transitions to make when you go from explorer to developer, is to hire the right people in the right roles. And so we're doing that slowly but surely.
And with the changes that are happening and the considerations that you're putting in place in anticipation of the project looking different in the kind of medium term, is it still a green copper play? That was something that was a real strength for Marimaca. That fundamental project was you're able to build it as a really environmentally friendly project. Do things change now that you're having to look at a kind of hub and spoke model with other ore bodies feeding in?
Well, no, at the moment, all of the ore bodies that we're looking at feeding in are complementary, i.e. have the same profile as Marimaca. So they are Heap-Leach to go into a SXEW process using recycled industrial seawater from the port of Mejillones using green electricity. So we think that our green credentials are still firmly intact. Where that could potentially change is if we make a significant sulfide discovery, which is a very different project. But if that happens, we'll cross that bridge of becoming less green at that point.
Are you looking for sulfides at the moment?
Always, because where there are oxides, there has to be a sulfide body at depth, a sulfide feeder zone, and typically those are much larger than the oxide surface expressions. And so, yes, there's always the desire to see if there's something bigger at depth, because that's how we create value for our shareholders.
Okay, and so the technical team is kind of enlarged and spread across the various activities that you've got going on. Corporately, is the strategy still to be focused on development of Marimaca, or is the consolidation piece that you've been doing, obviously that takes a lot of work and a lot of your time. Are you still looking to consolidate? Are you still out there actively trying to bring in other projects, or is it kind of right, that's enough for now, let's get this built?
Well, two very clear strategies. Number one, we know we have to move the Marimaca project towards production, and that's what we want to do. And we have various shareholders who are very supportive of that strategy. They want to see this become a mine as quickly as we can. But we are actively looking for things that complement that strategy, because what we know is 50,000 tonnes of copper cathode is a decent scale. Certainly our feedback now that we're listing on the ASX is it's a pretty good scale project. It's not anything to be sneezed at. But if you can support a 70,000 or 75,000 tonne production profile for 15, 20 years, then you start to become a very serious new source of copper supply globally. And so where the opportunities exist and we think they're accretive, we will take those opportunities. We're not in a rush to go out and do that. We're not doing it for scale's sake. It has to make sense from a business plan perspective. But yeah, we're always looking and we're always exploring.
Okay, and we need to touch on the permitting piece. From what I was reading, good news. I think it was February coming out around the permits. Can you just explain, there's a difference between the avenues that you can go down in Chile at the moment or at any time, and you've gone down a slightly different path, which is more accelerated. Can you just give me some background on that?
Yeah, there are two pathways in Chile for permitting a mine, and this is with respect to your environmental approvals. It's actually quite easy to get a mining permit. The challenge is getting the environmental approval to go into a significant scale production. And the two different permit pathways are different primarily as a result of the project's assessed environmental impact, whether it has a significant impact on one of several key pillars, which are things like obviously the environment, flora and fauna, water resources, but also people's livelihoods, local stakeholders, things like that. We had a view when we did the analysis of our project that as a result of its location, and it really is a function of its location in the Atacama Desert where there's no flora and fauna to speak of, there's no local land usage, there's no people, that we were likely to be under the less onerous DIA regime. When you submit your application, you self-assess, you say, we believe we are a DIA or an EIA, and then you present your evidence for why you believe that and the mitigation measures that you're presenting for any risks that you've identified. But the key milestone is when the government actually accepts that, yes, we agree with you, you're a DIA, now you go through the DIA process. And that's what happened in February. So that is a first milestone. We're very pleased with that because there are lots of examples of companies that are either requested to withdraw their application and resubmit under the more onerous regime or get a flat rejection. That didn't happen. We were accepted. We've got the list of questions, but the job's not done. So we've got a lot of questions to answer and a lot of work to do between now and the next phase. There's one more submission of responses that we have, and then one more phase of questions, and then we are able to move towards getting our environmental approval. Our expectation, we're cautiously optimistic that we will have our environmental approval sometime between now and the end of the year. Maybe it slips into next year if there are some unforeseen additional items that we have to address, but typically it's a fairly well understood and transparent process, and it's just a function of how well we answer the question.
Okay, and before I let you go, how do those timelines integrate with the overall timelines and the technical work that needs to be finished and changed around the DFS? What should people be looking for over the next 6, 12, 18 months?
Yeah, well, now that we've been accepted as a DIA and we have a view on what the timings should be, we have visibility on when we can actually potentially start construction. You can actually start construction when you have the environmental approval, not full construction. There's various other permits to get, but you could start. We're probably not going to, because I don't think we'll be prepared. But on the back of that, we've set the team a very ambitious goal of being as close to construction ready as we can be by the middle of 2026. So call it the end of June 2026 to be ready to put the first shovel in the ground and start moving this project towards first copper. It's pretty ambitious. The team tells me it's potentially achievable. That's what we're aiming for, and we're going to be working hard to do that. The things that need to occur is, the DFS is a document that provides a higher level of engineering, but it's not something that you can build from from my perspective. So we will go straight into detailed design and engineering, which we're going through the bidding process for now. We're getting prepared for that. We will start to identify our contracting strategy. How much risk do we want to take on as a company? Do we want to try and go for an EPC? Who are the best partners for us to build this project with? And then obviously there's financing and things like that we need to get in place. All of that I think is achievable in the next, let's call it 18 months to 20 months, but it will take a lot of work.
So we've got time for Hayden. Thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, Chris.